Footy-wise, round 5 was an absolute banger. Tipping-wise,
That shit stinks.
we came out of that round limping, wounded, because the tips were trash, let's be honest. Now, I don't know how people treat draws, but that Manly Newey game, we're gonna cop the L on that, and that makes us 3 from bloody 8. The Roosters, we got right. The Panthers, we said that they beat them at their own game, and Canberra folded. The Bunnies got done at home. The Sea Eagles and Knights drew. The dominant Dragons showed up against the Dolphins. The Broncos rented the Tigers. The Warriors got up on the Sharks. And the Bulldogs as well, in a crazy Sunday session of footy. So our total for this season, barely in the positive, 22 from 40. But yeah, this week there's some fairly straightforward games, I think, and a couple of coin flips. Let's take a gaze. In the first match of round 6, we have the Melbourne Storm hosting the Sydney Roosters. In terms of omissions, the big one, James Tedesco, of course. They've got Joey Manu listed here, and Joey Augusto Sua'ali'i back in the centres. So that's a massive win for the Roosters. For the Storm, they have Jerome Hughes back in the 7. That's a massive win. They've also got Jack Howarth, but I don't think he'll be playing. The bench is Bronson Garlick, Alec McDonald, Tom Eisenhuth, and Tarek Sims. As for the Roosters, their bench, Jake Turpin, Terrell May, Corey Allen, and Fletcher Baker. So a fairly light bench. That's been their MO this season and previous. In terms of my pick, based on performances last week, the Roosters looked pretty good, man. But this week I'm going to go with the class of Harry Grant and Cameron Munster. Yes, their defense is still pretty shoddy, but I'm going to ride with them this week, particularly because Jerome Hughes is back. So yeah, the Storm. We'll take the Storm 1-12. For game 2, the Friday, we have a nice afternoon game, 4 PM kickoff between the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs and the South Sydney Rabbitohs. In terms of ins and outs, the Bulldogs, 3 men gone from last week, Frankie Pele, Jaden Ockenbaugh, and Raymond Faitala Mariner. For the Bunnies, it's Alex Johnston. As for replacements, they got Tane Milne coming in for Alex Johnston. Tatola's back as well. Tevita Tatola for the Bunnies, so he's a massive inclusion for them through the middle. Corey Waddell comes into the second row, and Harrison Edwards at lock. Just checking the bench real quick. Josh Reynolds, Curtis Morin, Jaden Tanner, and Jackson Torpene. The Dogs, man, doing it tough. For the Bunnies, Cartwright, Suluka Fifita, Moale, Sele, Chikam being dropped to reserves. As for my pick, I think the Bunnies will be disappointed with their performance last week against the Storm. And we're going to rock with the Bunnies this week to get the job done against this depleted Bulldog squad. I think they'll keep things super simplified this week. Just try and pump their way through the middle of the field and run their plays off the back of that. But yeah, we'll take the Bunnies. We'll go 1-12. The Bulldogs to, again, put up a fight. In the headliner for Friday, we have a Queensland derby between the Broncos stepbrothers, the Cowboys, and the Dolphins being played at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. Some big outs for the Cowboys. Helium Lukey, Jordan McLean, they're both out. Anthony Milford, he's out for the Finns. In saying that, the Cowboys welcome back arguably 2 of their best players in Ruben Cotter and Scott Drinkwater, both back in their respective positions. In terms of the changes in the halves for the Dolphins, Nikodima comes into the 6 and Sayaka Atoa, he'll be down in the 7, so he gets to run the pack around the park. As for my pick, with the inclusion of Ruben Cotter and Scott Drinkwater, it's hard to look past the Cowboys, so we're going to take him. Now, their attack has looked pretty terrible, to be honest, these past couple weeks. But with the return of Scott Drinkwater, I guess we'll find out just how vital he is to their team when it comes to their attack. I reckon he'll carve, and Ruben Cotter will most likely be chopping trees down for upwards of 60 minutes. So the Dolphins, they just got absolutely destroyed through the middle last week by the Dragons. I'm not sure the Cowboys are even capable of doing that anymore, as their forward pack have been lacking these last 5 rounds, honestly. I do wonder if Dalmalolo's fully fit, because he hasn't really made a mark in any of the games they've played this season. And also their bench is pretty interesting, super light. Jake Granville and Tom Chester, with Jermaine Taunoa-Brown and Riley Price. But yeah, we'll take the Cows, we'll take it 1-12 and look for ex-Cowboys to turn it up in this game. For Super Saturday, we have a doubleheader, and the first of those will be the Penrith Panthers hosting the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles at Bluebet Stadium. A super tough game for the Sea Eagles. In terms of ins and outs, the outs for both teams, we got Fisher Harris, that's huge. And for the Sea Eagles, we have Ben Trebojevic and Christian Tuipolotu. Couple handy ins for Manly, they got Jason Saab coming into the side, and Josh Schuster, who was sorely missed last week. For the Panthers, they have Matthew Eisenhuth starting at front row, and Sonny Luke joins the bench. As for my pick, I mean, as good as the Sea Eagles have looked with both Schuster and Tommy healthy, I just can't see them getting past this Panthers team, man. Like, stylistically, this is an ideal matchup for the Panthers. When it comes down to like a battle of attrition, Manly more than likely fold. Schuster's going to be huge for them this game when it comes to freeing up space for Turbo, but I just kind of see Penrith shutting them down. Defense has been their strong suit this season, and I just don't see Manly scoring many points. That battle between the forward pack is going to be super interesting. Can Haumole Olakawatu run riot or run wild on this Panthers pack? We're going to run off Penrith here. We'll go 1 to 12, yeah. I think they can run away with it, but we'll go with Manly to keep it respectable. In the headliner for Super Saturday, we have the entertainers, the Brisbane Broncos, number 1 in the league, taking on the Canberra Raiders. Looking at the ins and outs, they got Jared Croker here for the Raiders. That's a bit of a feel-good story, seeing Jared Croker get a run. He'll be skipper in the centres, and it'll be an unchanged, I guess, full-strength Broncos side. The Raiders last week were pretty disappointing to get blown out at home with this forward pack. You can bet that Sticky's going to get them fired up for this game on the road, and stylistically, their playstyle can trouble the Broncos, who at times get a little impatient in attack and can make a few errors. Like, we're yet to see the perfect performance from the Bronx, yet they're still pumping teams. Tom Flegler, Payne Haas have been damn near unstoppable. Billy Walters, it's been a slow and steady transition into hooker. Defensively, he's been pretty good, but you can see his attacks slowly getting there, and decision making. Not to mention Paddy Carrigan, he'll be coming up against Corey Horsburgh. Yeah, the head-to-heads in the packs, that's going to be so good to watch. The back five. As for my pick, we're going to go with the Broncos, obviously, not because I'm a supporter, but I do think they'll get by. I won't say comfortably, because you never know with the bloody Raiders. They could very well grind one out with a super simplified game plan, but I think the Broncos have too much firepower for them, and we'll go 1 to 12. Give me the Bronx. The first of 2 for the Sunday sesh, we have the Gold Coast Titans hosting the St. George Illawarra Dragons at Seabus Super Stadium. Now, there's some massive outs for the Titans. They're missing AJ Brimson and Kieran Foran. For the Dragons, from what I can see, it's unchanged. Their fill-in for Kieran Foran is Toby Sexton. He joins Tanner Boyd in the halves. And at fullback, the obvious one, Jaden Campbell slots in. So not a bad replacement for both Brimo and Foran. As for my pick in this game, the Dragons are the underdog. That's interesting. I'm actually going to back the Dragons in this week, and we'll go off the strength of their forward pack, because last week, those boys were rumbling through the middle. Frankie Molo, who had a hectic start to the season last year, but dozed off towards the origin period. He's been at his destructive best. Blake Laurie, he's been to the bakery a few times, 3 times actually. 3 meat pies for the season. Molo, Little, Laurie in their front row against Fotuaika, Chris Randall, and Big Tino Fa'aso Maleawi. And in the back row, we got David Fifita up against Murdoch Masila, Joe Stimson, Jaden Su'a, and Isaac Liu up against Jack Bird. How hectic is that? So yeah, my pick again will be the Dragons. I'm not that confident in taking the Dragons, honestly, because I don't know if they can be consistent or not, but their confidence is through the roof at the moment, and yeah, we'll back them in to keep it going. Let's go Dragons, let's go 1 to 12. And to close out the Sunday sesh, we have another interesting game here. The Newcastle Knights, they host the New Zealand Warriors at McDonald Jones Stadium. Oh, there's a big out for the Knights. They're missing Tyson Gamble. For the Warriors, it's Marata Niukore. Phoenix Crossland will be filling in for Tyson Gamble. And for Marata Niukore, we have Bailey Surinen in the back row. Stylistically, these teams are somewhat similar and have both developed qualities we've never seen from them in the past. Well, actually, Newcastle have displayed this. We're more so talking about the Warriors. A bit of grit and resilience, and have dealt with adversity. They're grinders, essentially. For the Knights, though, Gamble's a massive loss. I didn't even see our boy, Tamaide Martin, back in the 6. We love to see that. I'm going to take the Warriors then, with Tamaide Martin coming back. Their edge defense needs a lot of work. I think Sero will be solid out wide for them. Marata had a pretty off day last week, but they will miss his physicality, and he'll be coming up against Tice Frizzell. So yeah, I can't wait for this game. Give me the Warriors. Let's see, we'll go Warriors 1 to 12. It should be a dogfight though. And the final game of the week brings in the new week. An Easter Monday game, we have the West Tigers taking on the Parramatta Eels. Ins and outs for the Parramatta Eels, they have Bailey Simonson missing a few weeks. His replacement is Hayes Dunster. Well, the Tigers, they got some interesting picks here in the back line. Our guy Asuka Power had his hands full last week. He's been shifted to the wing. Charlie Staines at fullback and Adam Dewey back in the 6. We love to see that. For Parramatta, they still have the vet and Josh Hodgson starting in the 9, and Wadamu Greg, who was pretty solid. Oh, they got Sean Lane coming back into the side. This is, I was going to say full strength, but obviously Junior Paulo still missing, but Sean Lane's a massive in. Ryan Madison to lock. Hopgood in the 14. And yeah, we know what the deal is with the Tigers on paper. They've got a stacked team. It's just that command center, man, that spine. No one has taken control of this team yet, and it will bloody 6 rounds in. As good as Appy can be, he does need a dominant 7 that shot calls, and is Luke Brooks that 7? Yeah, so my pick, I want to run off Parramatta in this one, and we'll go with Parramatta, let's say 13 plus. Tigers, as bad as they've been, they're still a bloody mystery because they have the players here that can rattle a few teams. You know they're going to have that one game where they look like a completely different side, but I don't think it'll be against the Eels. Alright, so that's my picks for round 6. I'll have a list of Oddski's Bakery, aka try scorers, one from each game, as like a little side mission. See how many meat pies we can predict. Probably none, honestly. I'm that terrible at picking tries. But yeah, let me know your picks down below, let me know your totals if you know them, and I'll catch you boys in the round 6 review.